Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back for another Pokemon Red solo run. It's come to my attention that the few views that I have on my videos I've watched an average time of 12 seconds. And 12 seconds is about the length of my intro. So this time, no intro. Let's get right into the good stuff. So anyway, as you might know by now, this time we're going to be running Moltres. I name our rival Tracy. And can you guess what Pokemon I gave to Tracy? That's right, Omastar. See, Omastar is a rock and water Pokemon, and that's by far the best way to counter a fire Pokemon like Moltres. Omastar starts with Horn Attack, Water Gun, and Withdraw. Moltres though starts with Fire Spin and Peck, none of which are effective against Omastar. Or is it? Actually, Gen 1 has a very peculiar thing concerning Fire Spin. If your Pokemon is faster than the opponent's, you can just spam Fire Spin, and as long as it connects, you will always hit first and never give the opposing Pokemon any chance to attack. So, even though Fire Spin has 85 accuracy, I still managed to hit pretty much every single hit, and I beat Omastar. First victory is ours. This was the start of a great adventure. Anyway, I think it's useless to say that after doing the little quest for Oak and getting our Pokédex, we get through Viridian Forest with no trouble whatsoever. And so, we reach Pewter at level 9. This time, since we're playing with a legendary Pokemon, I assume that Moltres, even at level 9, should be faster than the first trainer in Brock's gym. Turns out I'm wrong, but it's not too much of a problem as I go through the fight very quickly with Fire Spin carrying us. But then I think, wait, this is actually kinda bad, because if I go against Brock and I manage to beat Geodude, Onix is probably going to outspeed me, and if it uses Bite and I go for Fire Spin, I'm gonna lose. So I quickly go back and go fight Tracy again. This fight starts a bit roughly for me, as I get hit 3 times with Gusts and I miss 3 times with Fire Spin, but still, I managed to beat PJ without getting hit with Sand Attack, so I'm quite okay with this. But then we've got Omastar to defeat, and of course I end up missing Fire Spin again, and I get hit with a Water Gun. I'm at 14 HP, and if I miss once more, I don't know if I can tank it. It turns out my uses for Fire Spin ran out, and I had to use Peck. Of course, I get it with another Water Gun. But wait! I actually survive with 1 HP left. I use another Peck, and thankfully I crit. If I didn't, I would have probably died if it wasn't a miss. But thanks to this, I actually level up to 11, so maybe Brock won't be that much of a problem now. Well, let's test that theory, shall we? Turns out, I'm faster than Geodude. That's a good start. I go for Peck because I don't want to use Fire Spin too much, as I want to keep some uses for Onix. Then I decide to go for Fire Spin. I go for Fire Spin. Okay, I go for Fire Spin. In the end, I decide to finish it off with Peck because I was missing too many Fire Spins, and I only go with 14 HP to Onix, which is a very bad omen. But wait, I'm faster than Onix. So I go for Fire Spin, and it's a crit. And I go for another Fire Spin, and it crits again. And the thing in Gen 1 with moves that hit more than once is that if the first hit is a crit, the rest is guaranteed to be crit as well. So this is extremely good. And for a move with 85 accuracy, I'm finding this odd, as this tends to miss a lot actually. So by the end of the fight, even though it uses Bite, I don't try to go for Fire Spin and just finish Onix off with Peck. So this actually wasn't as bad as I was thinking it was gonna be. We've got our first badge, let's move on. Since we try to give our rival a good match against our Fire-type Pokemon, I always go and fight every single trainer between Pewter and Cerulean. Because if I don't, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be stuck for a while against Omastar. But anyway, we get to Cerulean and it's time to go fight Tracy once more. And in this fight, I get destroyed because I miss every single one of my Fire Spins. It turns out, and I learned this right after losing, that Fire Spin doesn't have 85 accuracy. It only has 70. increasing to 85 from Gen 5 onwards. But still, 70%, and I missed every single hit against Pidgeotto. But I don't get discouraged. I go and try again. This time Fire Spin connects, I use it twice and then finish off Pidgeotto with Peck. Abra and Rattata both go down with one single use of Peck, and then I go for Fire. Wow. Well, okay. After a very tedious time mashing A to get rid of all of my uses of Fire Spin, I actually reduce Omastar's HP to a good level, and then I use Peck, I get hit with a Horn attack, and then go for another Peck, and actually win the fight, which I wasn't expecting so early, not at level 20. But still, I'm glad, this is progress, we can continue now. Like always, we defeat every trainer up until Bill's house, where we get our ticket to the SSN, all because of Misty's Starmie. If it can move first, I'm 90% sure we're done. But before going to her gym, I actually want to try and defeat Tracy again inside the SSN. This time though, I don't make the mistake of going for Fire Spin on Pidgeotto, so 2 uses of Peck are enough to take it down. I use a Fire Spin against Raticate, but a Peck could probably have had the same result. Another Peck is enough to take care of Kadabra, which leaves me with 14 uses of Fire Spin for Omastar. The first use is a crit and hits 5 times, the second use isn't a crit but hits 5 times, and the third use is a crit but only hits 2 times. Then I miss twice, and fortunately Omastar only goes for withdraw, and after that I go through all my uses of Fire Spin. When I'm out, a couple of packs are enough to take care of it. Even though I get hit with one water gun, it's not nearly enough to take me down. Anyway, this gives us access to HM Cut, which in turn gives us access to Vermilion's gym. But since we don't want to overlevel too much, I actually go back to Misty first. It turns out, Fire Spin lets me cheese through the fight easily. Staryu goes down with 2 uses, one of them being a crit, and then Starmie is pretty much the same. Fire Spin all the way through, and then in the end, when it's low HP, I go for a Peck, and the second badge is ours. Of course, I'm not gonna waste any time, and I'm going straight to Surge. The first Pokemon in hands is Voltorb, and I go for Fire Spin, but it only hits twice, so I try to use Fire Spin again, but it misses. And it goes for Tackle but misses as well, so I decide to finish it off with Peck. Even though it's not effective, it's still enough to take it down. Pikachu on the other hand is defeated with a single use of Fire Spin. Then I miss my first use of Fire Spin against Raichu and get punished with Thunder Shock. Fortunately, even though it's a crit, it doesn't hit as much as I thought it would, and I go for Fire Spin again, this time it connects, and I get it down to low HP. Then I try going for a Peck, but it doesn't kill, and it goes for Thunderbolt, which gets me down to 27 HP. So of course I can't risk missing a Fire Spin, I have to press on with Peck, and sure enough, it reduces Raichu's HP to 0, and we've got our third badge. So now, what we want to do is go all the way to Celadon without fighting any unnecessary... Never mind, let's fight this guy for some reason. Anyway, first things first, after getting to Celadon, what we want to do is go get our 4th badge. And yes, before you try to guess, Fire Spin, Fire Spin, and Fire Spin. I do try to go for a Peck against Angela, but it goes for the normal type version of Fire Spin, which is Bind, but I do defeat it and then go back to Fire Spin for Vileplume. In the end, I do beat it with another Peck anyway. 4 badges down, 4 to go. Next, we're finally going to learn some moves. I go to Celadon store and I go buy Double Team, because of course I want to be able to set up my badge boost from now on. And then I go get Fly, but instead of teaching it to PJ, I accidentally teach it to Moltres. Still, it's not such a bad thing. It'll come in handy later. We've gotta go to the Game Corner's basement now. And if you've watched last episode, you probably already know that if you talk to this guy from the left after beating him, he will drop the lift key in the same space that you are standing in, and you can't catch it unless you go down and then look up again to pick it up. Well, the same can be applied to Giovanni, but first let's go through the fight. Of course, Fire Spin being Fire Spin, I missed my first use, I missed my second use and get hit with Rock Throw, but finally I hit on my third and fourth try and it actually deals a decent amount of damage to Onix. I go for Fire Spin again against Rhyhorn and I make pretty quick work of it. Then against Kangaskhan I decide to try Fly Out, and actually it's not half as bad as I thought it would be. So I easily take out Kangaskhan with 2 uses of Fly. Now back to the topic of the items. After beating Giovanni, if you talk to Giovanni from the back before battling him, after you win and he vanishes, the Sylph Scope will spawn underneath you. And a quick thing that I didn't know about is that there is a super potion hidden right behind the Sylph Scope, which I found was pretty interesting. Anyway, with the Sylph Scope in hand, we want to go to Lavender Tower now. Next stop, fighting Tracy. And man, this fight was boring. I might actually consider coming to this fight before going to Celadon on future runs, because 1 use of Fly is enough to take down Pidgeotto, Growlithe, Execute, and Kadabra. For Omastar, I try going for Fire Spin, but since it's not doing any damage at all, I decide to try Fly against it, and wow, it's actually doing pretty decent damage. Once it's down to low HP, I try going for Peck, but it's not enough to defeat it and it goes for Water Gun, but I'm still able to beat it on the next turn with another Peck, which levels me up to level 35. Now, the next part is pretty tedious, and then we save Mr. Fuji and get our Pokeflute. So, since I'm still level 36, I decide not to risk going to Saffron to fight Tracy again, and instead I go for Fuchsia's gym leader, Koga. And for the first time in the run, I decide to go for the badge boost, and then I proceed to destroy his whole team with Fly, except Muk, which I finish off with Fire Spin. Anyway, the 5th badge is in our hand, so now you know what we have to do. Let's go to Saffron and battle Tracy. I don't usually go for the badge boost against Pidgeot, because this version still knows Sand Attack, but I still try to go with Moltres, and of course, as I feared, I get hit with Sand Attack. Fortunately, I don't get hit anymore, and I'm able to defeat Pidgeot with Fly. Growlithe, Execute, and Alakazam easily go down with Fly. And then for Omastar, since I had the badge boost active, I tried going for Fire Spin, but it doesn't deal nearly enough damage to take it down or even make a dent in his HP bar, so I decide to go for Fly, which is a much better alternative. Unfortunately, I miss a couple of times and Omastar has time to use Withdraw a lot, so that ends up reducing Fly's damage by a lot. So I persist and go for Fly, but then Tracy heals Omastar and I end up running out of uses for Fly. Then I decide to go for Peck, and even though it doesn't do any damage at all, I still manage to beat Omastar with full HP. After beating Tracy, it's time to go fight Giovanni again. So the fight starts, I set up my badge boost against Nidorino, then take out both Nidorino and Kangaskhan with a Fly, then a couple of Fire Spins and a Fly to take care of Rhyhorn, and in the end 2 uses of Fly are enough to take care of Nidoqueen. Again, this fight is a joke. Anyway, Saffron is free and we have to go say hello to Sabrina. Like always, since we're trying to get to the end of the game with the lowest possible level, we don't fight any trainer inside of the gym and go straight for the leader. Once the battle starts, she sends out Kadabra and 1 use of Fly is enough to take it down. Then I set up my badge boost against Mr. Mime, and again a single use of Fly is able to take it down. Now on to Venomoth. It uses Poison Powder, which, while being bad, it's not as bad as Toxic, which deals more and more damage as turns go by. But still, I decide to go for Fire Spin, and I fail to consider that every single hit of Fire Spin actually deals damage to me with Poison. I'm still able to beat Venomoth with 1 Fire Spin, and then, once we get to Alakazam, again, 1 single use of Fly is enough to take it down. 6 badges, only 2 left now. Time to go to Cinnabar. We go grab the secret key from the Pokemansion to open the gym, and once inside, we answer all the questions so we don't have to fight any trainer. Which is good, because we're pretty much on par with Blaine's Pokemon's levels. Growlithe is first, and I go check my experience because I don't want to risk setting up my badge boost to level up right after beating the first Pokemon and have everything cancelled. So instead of going for double team, I go for Fly, I don't one shot, but then I go for Peck, and next up is Ponyta. However, Ponyta doesn't go down in one hit either, even though it's 2 levels lower than Growlithe. It gets healed with a super potion from Blade, but I'm then able to take it down with the second Fly. Then, while I could have probably won the fight anyway without setting up my badge boost, I do just that against Rapidash. And once I'm done, I go for Fly, take it down in one hit with a critical hit, and then 2 uses of Fly for Arcanine, and the 7th badge is ours. We need to go fight Giovanni one last time. While inside his gym, I take care of any mandatory fights, and then go straight for the leader. I try setting up my badge boost against his first Pokemon, Rhyhorn, but I get unlucky and I get hit with Tail Whip twice, and although that's the case, I still persist and finish setting it up, then I take it down by using Fire Spin and Peck. Dugtrio gets one shot by Fly, as do both Nidoqueen and Nidoking. The only issue is that I level up, so now no badge boost, my defense is lowered by 2 stages, and I only have my evasion to rely on. I try to get a feel for it and go for Fire Spin, but it doesn't deal enough damage, so after a couple of flies, I get Rhydon's HP bar down to red, then finish it off with a Fire Spin that crits, and this marks a new personal best for this area of the game. Level 45 with 8 badges, that's great, but now we need to see if this is enough to take on Tracy again. And now that we know that at this stage of the game Pidgeot has forgotten how to use Sand Attack, I go for double team and set up my badge boost. Although I only go for 3 uses because since I'm level 45, I'm pretty sure I'm going to level up before reaching Omastar. And if I do, I want to be able to set up the rest of my badge boost against him in order to beat it faster. Anyway, Pidgeot goes down with 2 flies, Rhyhorn doesn't take long to beat with Fire Spin, Growlithe goes down with 1 fly, as does Execute, and then I level up to 46, which means I was right. And then I decide I'm not going to use double team against Alakazam because I don't want to risk a crit from Psychic, which could probably kill me. So I go for Fly and I take it down with 2 uses. And once I get to Omastar, I start setting it up and I get hit with Hydro Pump, which immediately takes me down. But I go and try again. And since I know that Fly actually does a decent amount of damage to Omastar, I set up my full badge boost against Pidgeot and then proceed to do the same thing I did before, taking down pretty much every single Pokemon in one hit until I get to Alakazam, and after defeating it, I level up, which I was pretty sure was going to happen anyway, but now I only have my evasion to count on. And it turns out, Fly doesn't deal as much damage as I was hoping it would. And I get hit with another Hydro Pump, and I'm dead. Great. Okay, let's try this again. Now, like always, I go for double team against Pidgeot, setting up my badge boost to the max. Then I take it down with Fly. I accidentally go for Peck against Growlithe, but since it does so much damage, I use it again, I take it down, then I use Peck again against Execute, which takes it down as well, and then switch to Fly for Alakazam. And since I'm now level 47, that's not enough to level me up against Omastar, which means that this time I get to keep all my boosts. And sure enough, now Fly does deal some considerable amount of damage. Omastar misses all its uses of Hydro Pump and I'm able to take it down easily with Fly. I level up to 48, but it's still a personal best for this part of the game. Anyway, we move on to Victory Road, and I go and pick up Sky Attack and teach it to Moltres. Unfortunately, it's been so long since I've used Sky Attack that I completely forgot how it works. It turns out, only from Generation 3 onward does Sky Attack have a high crit rate, and also you can only use it 5 times. Although Sky Attack can be executed in one turn if your Pokemon is holding a Power Herb, in Generation 1 that doesn't exist yet. But still, we get through Victory Road without fighting anyone, and it's time to confront the Elite Four. Also, I still had something prepared just in case Sky Attack wouldn't be good enough. So, the first fight against Lorelei starts, and I try setting up my badge boost. Unfortunately, I end up losing way too much HP. Still, I am able to take it down. Surely, Cloyster will finish me off, right? Well, no. Actually, Fire Spin takes care of it pretty quickly. Unfortunately, when I get to Slowbro, even though the first 2 hits of Fly are critical hits, the third hit isn't though, and because it has a high defense already because of Withdraw, I'm not able to take it down. So Lorelei heals it up, and after getting it down back to red HP, I get hit with Water Gun. I'm done. Well, it's time to try again. This time, I'm much more successful while setting up the badge boost, and I'm able to take Dugong down with half of my HP remaining. Again, Cloyster goes down easily with Fire Spin, but unfortunately I level up before Slowbro, which means that once again I'm not gonna be hitting much against it. And sure enough, by the third hit I'm already not hitting enough. So I decide to cheese the fight against Slowbro and go for Fire Spin until Lorelei uses a Super Potion. Then, luckily, I use Fly and I crit, which ignores the opponent's defense, and I take it down. Then, since Jinx doesn't like fire type moves, we go for Fire Spin and we take it down pretty easily. Then for Lapras, we just need to pray that it doesn't hit us with an Hydro Pump, and sure enough, it doesn't, and we're able to take it down with 4 uses of Fly. Lorelei gets bested against a level 49 Moltres. Now that feels great, but this isn't over, and we need to move on. Let's go fight Bruno. And since I leveled up against Lorelei's Cloyster, I'm pretty sure I'm close to leveling up again, so I don't set up the badge boost against Onyx and take it down with Fire Spin. Then I use Double Team 3 times against Hitmonchan, and since I know that flying types are good against fighting type Pokemon, I go for Flight, I take it down in 1 hit, I level up, but instead of setting up the rest of the badge boost, I go for Fly again, and I notice that I one-shot Hitmonlee as well. The second Onyx gets the same treatment as the first one, and then Machamp dies with 2 uses of Fly. 2 down, 3 to go. And this is where I decide to forget Sky Attack and instead learn Swift. That's what I had on the side. Although it has much less power, it does hit every time and it has much more uses, so it's much better to have that than Sky Attack. Anyway, before going to Agatha, I check my experience and I think about whether or not I should use a rare candy, but I decide to start the fight as I am. So the fight starts and I defeat Gengar immediately by critting with Fly. Then Golbat comes up and again a couple of flies is enough to take it down. I level up and Moltres wants to learn Leer. And I think about it for a second because it could be useful, but since I had double team I decide not to. Then, since Fly isn't enough to one-shot Haunter, it goes for Nightshade, which actually takes a hefty amount of HP, so I decide I'm going to set up the badge boost here. Unfortunately, it goes for Hypnosis after 2 uses of double team, and it hits. Fortunately though, Agatha decides she wants to juggle with her Pokeballs, and ends up switching back and forth between Haunter and Arbok until I wake up. Then, as I'm about to complete the badge boost against Arbok, it uses Screech, which lowers my defense, but luckily I could still use double team once, which still counts as 1 stack of badge boost. I go for it, then I beat Arbok with Fly, Fire Spin for Haunter, and 1 use of Fly is enough to take down the last Gengar. Unfortunately, I didn't level up for Lance, which is bad. So after healing Moltres, I go and check up on its experience, and it's so close to leveling up that I end up using a rare candy. It's time to go fight Lance. And guess what? Once Fire Spin misses, I get hit with a Hydro Pump. I try and salvage this by setting up the badge boost, but another Hydro Pump lands and I'm dead. I try a second time, and Gyarados uses Hydro Pump, and it crits. Try number 2 is a no-go. Third time is the charm, right? Well, even though I get hit with an Hydro Pump, I still manage to use double team twice, and I'm able to beat Gyarados with a couple of flies. And of course, that levels me up. So I use another double team on the first Dragonair, but I get hit with Dragon Rage, and since I'm so close to dying, I go for Fly twice and I take down the first Dragonair. On the second Dragonair though, I hit the first Fly, but I missed the second one. So I decide to use double team 3 more times. And after I'm done, I take down Dragonair with another Fly. Aerodactyl is a little bit harder to beat because it has a higher defense, and Lance ends up using an Hyper Potion on it, but it's actually a good thing because now it's not gonna use it on Dragonite. So I end up taking it down with Fly, and it's time for his final Pokemon. And here it was actually pretty easy. Just 3 uses of Fly is enough to take it down. Lance is finally done. And the best part is that we're only level 52, which is awesome. I decide I'm not going to use a rare candy to fight Tracy, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to level up twice in this fight. Anyway, it's finally time for the last fight. Tracy sends out Pidgeot, and surprisingly, even though I'm 9 levels lower, I'm still faster. Anyway, I go for double team, I set up my full badge boost because, as I said earlier, I'm going to level up twice in this fight, so it's not gonna matter anyway for the last Pokemon. And then I take down Pidgeot using Swift. Of course, I level up just right after. And I noticed that I actually forgot to use elixirs before going to this fight, so I don't have much uses for Fly. And I try going for Swift against Alakazam, which ends up taking a lot of time and a lot of uses. But eventually I'm able to take it down. Rhydon takes a little bit of time to defeat, but I'm able to take care of it using Fire Spin. Arcanine goes down by using Fly and Swift, and Exeggutor gets dealt with Fire Spin. Then I level up again. Once I get to Omastar, I don't have many more uses of any of my moves left, so I go for Fire Spin first because it's the least damage dealing move, then for Swift, and finally for Fly. And then I start thinking, what if I actually manage to defeat Omastar using Struggle? I mean, theoretically it's possible. Hydro Pump has a low accuracy, and Struggle doesn't take too much HP out of me. Well, never mind about that. I get hit with an Hydro Pump, and I'm dead. I lose 4 more times before I decide to use a rare candy. I enter the fight, and once Pidgeot is sent, I use double team 3 times, then I use a combination of Flies and Swifts to take it out. Also, fortunately, I get Pidgeot's HP down enough that Tracy goes for her full restore, which is great, because now it probably won't use it on any other Pokemon. Anyway, Alakazam goes down with 1 Fly. I go for Fire Spin on Rhydon because it's the least damaging move and I don't want to be using any moves that I can use on other Pokemon. Turns out Tracy had another full restore and she uses it on Rhydon, and I'm glad I went for Fire Spin. Eventually I defeat it. Arcanine goes down with 2 Flies, and even though I don't level up yet, I decide to go for 1 more double team to further increase my evasion, because I'm going to need it for Omastar. Anyway, after that, 1 use of Fly is enough to take down Exeggutor, and once Omastar comes up, I use the 2 remaining double teams. Fortunately, it misses Hydro Pump, so now I can go ahead and defeat it. First, I use Fire Spin until I can't use it anymore, and fortunately, I'm able to use Fly until I can't use it anymore, and then Swift, and I don't get hit even once. And I'm finally able to take down Omastar, granting me the win, making Moltres champion at level 54. This was only hard because I brought it on myself. If I had used the rare candies, I could have won this earlier, but I did want to do this on the lowest possible level, so I'm glad I did this. Level 54 is pretty good for me. So now, how far can Moltres go in Pokemon Red? This time, we've got Moltres at level 54, and it just reached the end of the game with 5 hours and 17 minutes of real time, with an in-game time of 4 hours and 38 minutes, and we blacked out a total of 11 times. Let's see what Oak has to say this time. Anyone can do that with a legendary. Well, he's not wrong. I'll probably be able to come this far with all the other legendaries. But that's for the future. Right now, it's time for the question of the day. Today, let me ask you. If you lost everything, but you could save a single item, what would it be? And I'm not talking about people. Let's say that everything that you have is about to get confiscated, but you're allowed to keep one single thing. What is that thing? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. As always, you know the drill. If you liked the video, make sure to click the thumbs up and consider clicking on the subscribe button, as it would help me a lot. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys all have a great day, and as always, I will see you guys on the next Pokemon run. Bye.